Good afternoon and welcome to our virtual roundtable event. Today we will be talking about law, order and digital marketing. I'm Luke Tobin. I'm the Managing Director of Digital Ethos. Digital Ethos is a full service digital marketing agency. We specialise in SEO, pay-per-click, social media, digital PR and all the other facets in between. We thought we'd talk about law and the legal industry because I think we all know that sometimes it can be tarred with a bit of a brush for being very slow to move. This year, lots of businesses have had to economize, they've had to change their tactics, change how they work. So we thought we'd get a panelist together, we'd have a chance to really talk about fresh ideas, innovation, how some industry leaders are evolving with the changing space. Introducing your hosts. So you've now met myself, I'm Luke. I'm joined by my colleague, Callum Howarth. Callum is our head of growth at Digital Ethos. You're probably all wondering why we've got these slugs sat on our faces. It is Movember. The whole team have been actively sort of pushing and we're driving forward to get some monies in for a good cause. So at the moment we're at about £1,500 or so. We'll keep pushing it, but yeah, don't worry, we haven't been replaced by robots or actors for this. Jumping into the panel, so I'm really proud with the industry experts that we've managed to pull together from all different areas of the legal industry. What I'm going to do is do a bit of a round robin, do an introduction. There's two Charlottes, so I'll refrain and keep it easy. And Charlotte T and Charlotte K. We'll do a quick round of intros and a chance for them to talk about what they're most excited about, where they're from. Then we'll jump into the questions. So Charlotte T, over to you, please.
Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon. I'm running up slowly. Well, I'm Charlotte T for the surname, and I'm the Chief Marketing Officer of Novum Learning, which is actually a newfound business that has come on the back of some of the other projects that I have worked on in the past. And it's really a great testimony as to why I'm so excited about today, because I feel like digital marketing is one of those areas that really empowers people to do their part on the personal level, and that's what we are doing with Novum Learning, really creating opportunities for people to upskill themselves and to try something new and acquire new knowledge. So I'm very excited to be here today.
Amazing. Thank you, Charlotte. Steve, over to you.
Yeah, hi, I'm Steve Radaney. I'm Director of External Relations and Communication at the Bar Council. The Bar Council is the representative body for the barristers profession in England and Wales. It's really the trade union effectively, but we also market a lot of services to barristers and others in the legal sector. I used to work at the Law Society as well years ago, so I've got quite a lot, maybe too much experience in the legal sector. I did try and escape in between. I went to work for the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants, but obviously love lawyers too much. I got sucked back by the Bar Council. But I'm excited about today as well because, as many of you probably know, the bar is sometimes seen as particularly old-fashioned and slow to progress. But in the 6 years I've been at the Bar Council, it's progressed possibly too quickly. But I'm also hoping I'll learn a little bit about digital marketing from some of the others.
Lovely, thanks, appreciate it. Sue?
Hi, yeah, my background is completely professional services. So for the last 30 years, I have worked for a range of different size regional firms, always in a marketing role, now heading up business development at Paris Smith, which is a regional firm based in Hampshire, and working on digital marketing front. So it's great to join these other voices around the table, and welcome, Steve. We obviously are afflicted with the same thing with the law. We have to be in it and around it. But I'm really excited by today because I think actually lawyers have come on in leaps and bounds over the last few years, and actually COVID has probably forced us to jump forward a lot quicker than we were expecting to. So it'd be nice to have that sort of discussion today.
Thanks, Sue. Yeah, absolutely. I think every industry's had to leapfrog forward, haven't they? Mm-hmm. Charlotte K, over to you.
Hi, good afternoon. Charlotte K, both wearing pink today, both the memo, I think. I'm Charlotte Keane. I'm a business development and marketing manager at Charles Russell Speechlys, again, specialising in the law market. So what do? I want to provide expertise to connect, engage and communicate with our target audiences. And to do this, obviously, organisation is absolutely the top of my to-do list. This has really helped me grow in the world of business development, from pitches to understanding our clients, their needs and reaching out to them, especially in this digital world we're going to be talking about. I've thrived in the world of technology, including podcasts, webinars, virtual events, interactive pitches. And what I love most and what I want to share with you all is creativity. It's absolutely the best part of my job, brainstorming ideas that impact our already saturated audience and finding a way to really wow them.
Amazing. Thank you, Charlotte. Last but not least, Robert.
Hi everyone, very happy to be on the panel. My name's Rob Chamberlain. I head the marketing and business development function for our company commercial practice group, which covers everything from corporate M&A to data protection to tax. So you can see I get all the good gigs within the firm. I'm particularly excited here because, as others have mentioned, particularly in COVID, accelerated the digitalization of marketing teams within law firm practices. And I'd like to kick around some ideas of, when we all get back to some semblance of normality, does that continue, or do we go back into our old habits, or is there a delightful mix in between?
Very good. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So, a couple of rules for the webinar. Each of the guests have been muted. There is a Q&A at the end, so you will all have a chance to ask questions of the panel or each of the panelists. There's a really great sort of Q&A function on the right-hand side that you'll see. Feel free just to pop questions in as we move forward. We do have some sort of set topics that we're going to cover, but at the end then Callum and I will do our best to make sure all of the questions from each of the guests are answered. We will also follow up the webinar afterwards with a full recording, the answers to those questions and any bits that maybe go unanswered. We'll also follow up with some cool tools and some blogs and bits that you can do to continue learning or continue sharing. Callum, over to you.
So jumping straight into the first topic, what are the biggest obstacles when trying to win new clients? And I think the law industry in particular is famous for having a heavy focus on building relationships and networking before engaging in business with clients. How do you feel that environment has changed, especially with COVID? Charlotte T, would you be able to kick us off?
Yes, certainly. Thank you. I find that the biggest obstacle, and this is not just in the digital world, but obviously the whole digital environment is putting this into a completely different context, is trust, which comes down to the pure fact that law is a highly complex area. Most of us get shivers on our backs if we have to think about, okay, I have to engage with a lawyer, and that's just the pure nature of the industry. And what you would conventionally be able to do face to face, which is also communicate through body language, for example, has been taken out of the mix. Now, having said that, the digital world has created some really exciting new opportunities to connect, but I think we will cover that in one of the later points. But to come back to the main topic, I think overcoming what you would conventionally be able to do face to face, which is that personal connection, that physical body language, is a really big obstacle in creating that trusted environment, which is an absolutely cornerstone in working with clients.
Absolutely, yeah, for sure. Steve, how do you think the law industry has managed the challenges with overcoming some new obstacles?
In some ways, I think a lot's happened too quickly, certainly for barristers. And I think the thing to remember is where most barristers are different, and certainly where the Bar Council is different, is where our clients are other lawyers. So for barristers, it's solicitors, they want to instruct them. For us, it's getting our members to buy things or use our services. But we've gone from everything being written on paper to everything being digital. And I actually think the obstacle is there's still probably a cohort of about 15–20% of barristers that we're not reaching and that haven't really adopted digital communications and marketing yet. So funnily enough, we're actually looking at taking a step back and trying to reach them through traditional methods, even pen and paper. Years ago, when I started at the Bar Council, we did a project with a very well-known judge, and he came into the office and he said he wanted to help get the message out about his report. And he sat down and wrote with a pen 100 letters to individuals to go with his report. They were all hand delivered, and he even had a seal, his own personal seal on the envelope. I'm not saying we go back to that, although I'd open an envelope like that, but I think we are going to have to maybe mix it up a bit more and not rely so heavily on digital. I mean, we've gone too far in that we analyze every bit of data. We use a system called .mailer to communicate, and it will tell you, what device someone read something on, in which country, at what time, how many times they've looked at something. So we've got all the data, but we're clearly missing a trick. But I do also think GDPR has become a bit of it's a benefit, but a hurdle as well, in that it's good because you can target the people who actually want to receive what you're trying to sell them, but it's actually hard to get more people to sign up. And that's, I think, another one we have to sort of to contend with. The only other obstacle I find, certainly at the Bar Council, I don't know if others find it, is internally, staff still think that if you put something on the front page of your website, that's it, job done. No one's visiting our homepage anymore. They're being driven to the pages we want them to be driven to on our website, and they're getting the communications from social media and that sort of thing. Things have advanced, and I think those who maybe don't work in our fields of expertise need to catch up. Sorry, I was waffling on.
No, it's really interesting, the trade-off between the advancements in technology and then losing a little bit of personability. I think all of us like to read a personalized letter, but I think the time it takes to put them together, is a little bit too long. One thing that you mentioned there, do you think the industry's moving a little bit too quickly? Do you think perhaps that the industry was a little bit late to start and that's why it's having to move quite quickly?
Definitely, and I think some parts certainly of the bar are still catching up. You can see the individual chambers who have hired marketing experts because they're everywhere. You can see them, they look professional. If I'm honest, they look like law firms. They've got a brand and they're very visible, they know what to market. But there are some who they're just relying on the sort of personal relationships, I suppose, the face-to-face that Charlotte referenced, to continue to get new clients. But that it might be, I think it might be a money thing. Actually, they can't afford to hire them, especially at the criminal bar, which are renowned for being underpaid. I had to get that political point in. Sorry about that.
We'll try not to get too political. Sue, what's your take on some of the obstacles?
Yeah, I think it comes back to trying to do too much too quickly. So our IT team is fairly limited, but they found themselves, I think, being pulled from pillar to post because suddenly everybody had to work from home. So there were laptops needed for people that didn't have that sort of kit. And that's sort of the basics, and who had mobile phones and who didn't. So that was just to keep the basics going. But then, of course, you have the partners and the lawyers within the firm that were asking for client centres, that clients can log in and change their documents and view this and view that. And actually the clients weren't asking for that. It was just the lawyers that were saying, we think we should be doing this at the same time as we should be doing that. And yeah, I think suddenly everybody realised that there were all these tools out there and the ability to do all these different things without kind of stopping and thinking, actually, do we need that? How do we build on what we've got? What are our clients' needs? What do we need to be able to deliver as a basic? and then how can we build on that, rather than sort of shoot for the moon and then have to backpedal because it was a brilliant idea but actually nobody's using it. And while we've been concentrating on that area, you know, half of our staff's mobile phones aren't working properly. It is that sort of thing, wasn't it? It was just, the world was your oyster, but it is trying to sensibly fit an absolute sort of 3-year IT plan into 3 months sensibly.
Do you think there's been a lack of support and resources to enable law firms to do that?
I can't say there has in my firm. In fact, I think there were probably too many voices saying we should be doing this, we should be doing that, we should be doing the other. But it's certainly in other firms that I've heard of, I think, yeah, there was a pretty much a cap on no, you know, we can't go down that route, or we need to keep to the basics. So yeah, I think it differs throughout firms, to be honest.
Interesting. Charlotte, what's your take on the subject?
Thanks, Callum. So I guess just taking ourselves back to January 2020, when we were all set to go with our campaigns and our event plan in place, a really exciting year we thought was ahead of us with corporate hospitality, various events, and we were about to kick off a season with the highly anticipated Cheltenham races in March. Our office is based in Cheltenham. And we got to day 3 of the Cheltenham races, and all of a sudden we had to react really quickly, cancelling our events that our guests had planned to visit this year. And for the first time in a very long time, Cheltenham races didn't happen as normal. Instead, we were sent home to start the life as we knew, as now called the new normal. For everyone, we weren't prepared what was about to happen. So our events got cancelled, and we were at the start of the pandemic, not knowing what was going to happen or what the next few months entailed. And as lockdown started, we started to understand, and we all probably heard this word fly around, the meaning of furlough. Our lawyers were the voices of that everybody wanted to hear, and the meaning of this new normal and what we could do to thrive in a pandemic. So in the BD world, we instantly hit the ground running with podcasts, webinars, Passel posts, LinkedIn, everything digital as possible. And we needed a really quick and efficient way to reach our audience, because we were getting a lot of questions internally to understand what was going on. And for us, LinkedIn was obviously the tool that everybody, whilst they were on furlough, could use, and it didn't stop them. Like emails, if you were on furlough, you couldn't see those. So we looked at hosting podcasts and webinars, as I've mentioned, and fed our clients through that way, with the knowledge they wanted. So looking at our biggest obstacles when trying to win new clients, it's really about keeping up to date with the trends and ensuring that we stay in touch in a digital market. So staying ahead of the game and not saturating our audience. Of course, we're now all embracing a digital world, and if you aren't, you know, you're probably getting left behind slightly. So we use this to our advantage, and we kind of started making all of our pitches interactive, hyperlinking content. And, you know, Steve, as you mentioned, those website pages, directing people to them instead. So when we're pitching for new opportunities now, knowing your market is key, and really what they're passionate about, but also what those new clients think that we think they're passionate about. So at CRS, we knew that world was at slight unrest and everybody was going through hard times, and it was a perfect opportunity for us to put our responsible business report that we've established this year. And the report highlights all of the positive changes that we are and have been making, including, you know, the hot topic of this year, environmental impact. So I don't think, you know, about winning new clients is just about feeding them with law or understanding what they want. It's also about really showing them that we care, and not just about their world and what they think we want, but also about our world together.
That's really interesting. Do you think the introduction of some new technologies has made it a little bit simpler, a little bit quicker to win clients, or has the process become a little bit longer with more moving parts to consider?
Well, you've got a saturated audience, so everybody's online, and there's content at the touch of your fingertips. You type something in, furlough, and gosh, hundreds and thousands of pages come up on Google, and you don't know who to trust. But being a law firm, that's played in our advantage. We're seen as, you know, those trusted advisors. The phones didn't stop ringing, I think, on the first day of COVID, and we were already in lockdown, as Sue mentioned, with IT and trying to figure out what was going on. But my background, I've come from, you know, a professional service firm, which is highly tech advanced, and so I adapted to it. I was pushing the lawyers to do this already, and so it worked in my favor. I was like, brilliant, I've been asking you to do podcasts for months, and now lockdown happens, here we are, and here we have it. And, you know, we got, and I'll mention this later, we had clients coming through because of our podcast, because of our LinkedIn you know, posts, etc., and new clients and new wins.
Yeah, interesting. Robert, how have you coped with the new challenges?
I'd like to say well, but I'm not. I'd let others decide how well I'm coping. Like in answer to the question, in listening to the feedback of everyone on the panel, distill it in three areas for me. So the challenge of winning new clients is look at the business environment your clients are going through. It's incredibly disruptive. One of the biggest decisions an in-house team could be making now is to change the law firm in which they go to. It's highly unlikely they will take that risk. And then think of all the things you've been doing in your marketing and business development efforts. It's very much defensive play. It has been for the last 8 months. It will continue to be so until well, I'm not going to call when things will get back to normal. And then moving on, as we all change from doing our offline activities to do more online, there's an incredible amount of noise. And I think as we move into, this is here to stay. We'll be doing podcast webinars forevermore now, and there will be increasing balance. But now is for us as marketers to be crystal clear on our segmentation strategies, because it's so easy to get information out now that can be lost, and you could be sending out information to people who are just not interested, and you're going to lose goodwill with them. And let's face it, what we're trying to do now is increase our consideration for potentially winning work in the future, positioning ourselves well. And then again, as we move into the future, I think as a function, marketing and BD have got to be careful we don't decouple from our lawyer groups. We keep going down this route of digital adoption, whereas when our lawyers get back into the office, they want to be meeting people, they want to be doing face-to-face things, they want to be doing events. We've got to make sure that we're working with them to find out the best routes to market and supporting them with their relationships.
Going back to one of your original points, you said not many clients will be looking to switch law firms. Do you think that's made it easier to retain newer clients? Have they been quite receptive and understanding of the changes?
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly from my experience, but I also see it on the other side where we have won clients. There's an inherent danger of not being there for them, and I can't remember the quote explicitly, but a few months ago there was a quote from the lawyer saying how many in-house teams have heard from their law firms, and I think it was a quarter that hadn't heard from their law firms. So if it was up to us to take the initiative and be there for our clients and making client contact when we couldn't meet face-to-face a habit. And for those that didn't, they risked losing the relationships. But certainly we've been making sure we're there for our clients, being strategic in our thinking about how we support those clients and the issues that we think, given their type of organisation and sector they're in, that they're interested in, but also from keeping that dialogue, making sure we are there for them, asking how they are, how their businesses are, so then we're able to pitch ourselves and continue to provide that support.
Yeah, I think some of those points are really synonymous across all industries at the moment, for sure. Over to you, Luke.
Thank you very much. So, where are the biggest opportunities for digital marketing in the sector? Now, I guess we've slightly in the last question, but we thought we'd explore it in a bit more depth. It'd be interesting to, I guess, in this question, sort of think about some new tactics, new channels, new ways of marketing online that maybe we haven't considered before. Charlotte, you mentioned the webinars, the podcasts. I think that's really credible. And again, here we are on a webinar. More and more businesses have started to do them. It's a great way of giving out advice and being thought leaders. Where else would you see the opportunities? We'll start with Steve this time.
I mean, for us, we've only recently started using paid for social media, which we're finding very effective in reaching audiences that aren't our sort of members. So we can easily access the bar. They have to listen to us, but reaching some law firms, but also students as well. We have a pupillage fair every year. I mean, students can come for free, but in the past, we just rely on old contacts at universities to pass the message on. This year, we used paid for social media, and it was very effective. We had more students than ever coming. And I think if we had enough resources, I think I'd like to do more targeting of specific audiences within the profession. As you know, a commercial barrister right now is probably doing okay. A junior criminal barrister just starting out in their career probably isn't. So we have to tailor our messages to what's of interest to them and what they can afford as well. So I think there's an opportunity certainly for us there. This is probably stuff that a lot of people have already been doing for many years, but it's still quite new to us. And like I said before, I do think we're missing a group of clients, audience, customers, whatever you want to call them, because they just haven't yet caught up and adopted digital marketing communications, because they just don't want to. They don't want to be on Facebook or anything like that. And we do have to, I think there's an opportunity for us there to be a bit imaginative in how we reach them, or even if it's to convince them that it's okay to read an email from the Bar Council. But equally, I think chambers are doing similar. They're certainly being much smarter in who they're targeting, especially those that do direct access work, which means clients can go directly to them rather than through a law firm. They're certainly marketing themselves directly to members of the public, mainly through social media, actually. So I think that's where the opportunities are, certainly in the bar.
No, that's really good. Thank you. I mean, I've seen that with the chambers, that there's been a big diversification in the sort of channels that they've used and the approaches that they have, and I can see a valid opportunity there for having, if you did some sort of persona workshop and understood what each of those different people look like as far as a generalist persona, there would be some really nice ways of sort of engaging them, certainly for different types of content.
Exactly.
Very good, thank you. Sue, where do you see the opportunities for digital?
I think one of the things that we learned probably at the first lockdown was the power of collaboration. So digital was quite new to my firm, probably only been sort of almost put our toe in the water last year, if you like. So we were just starting to get up to speed with things when COVID hit. But we created a community hub on our website, which had input from mental health professionals, accountancy firms, obviously ourselves with the key topics around furlough and those sorts of issues that clients wanted to hear about. But it gave people the opportunity to go to one place to get all sorts of information, not just about the law, but what Paris Smith was passionate about, which was working with charities. So we were putting charities together to collaborate, because obviously they were going through an awful time trying to stay afloat. So it was all around, for us, it was all around learning how to use digital platforms so that we could collaborate and communicate that way, rather than sort of a hard sell, or we were talking to clients about what they needed, the struggles that they were going through, and then using that information to sort of help others and put the right messages out and the right advice out to others. But yeah, collaboration for us has been an absolute centre of everything we're doing.
Very good. Yeah, I think that piece around advice is really pivotal here, isn't it? I think the digital channels allow us a way of connecting with people that we didn't really have before, or it wasn't there really as a channel. So yeah, I think it's you've used it the right way to engage, give out free support and advice, and sort of really position as thought leaders. I think that's the key. Very good. Charlotte T, same question to you, please. Where do you see the opportunities for the digital marketing in the sector?
Yeah, thank you. I think it goes back to what Steve was referring to, that reaching out and being there and getting in touch with your existing clients is absolutely so crucial. But what I've been very excited about is seeing some lawyers bring it down to their personal level. So law firms have been doing, incredible things, especially when they have their own marketing departments. But that's one of the very exciting powers of the digital marketing world, that really we are all engines that can do our own digital marketing content. We can reach out on the personal level, and lawyers still have such a great opportunity and such a long way to go on the personal level to build their presence on LinkedIn, etc. And there are a couple of incredible people out there who have, out of nowhere, started creating their own articles, started doing their own interviews, and obviously that will feed back to the law firm at large. But what I think that also creates is almost humanizes law, if you like. It really brings it down to the personal level. It really creates that one-to-one resonance, which we are all looking for at the moment, because it's a very uncertain time. It's new for everyone. So for me to be able to go to a very specific person and say, hi John, I saw your interview, it really resonated with me. I think, like I'm experiencing something similar. Is this something you can help me with? That's an incredible opportunity, and to educate lawyers about this, and to teach them the right marketing skills to do it themselves, is a very exciting opportunity. And slightly tying into that, what the digital world also allows you to do is obviously amplify that content. So if you are able to push that out on all the different channels, God forbid, if you put a link in at the appropriate place to your law firm's website, then that's going to drive SEO, it's going to do all the work in the background, and it only takes such a tiny little bit of education for lawyers to be aware of that, and it's going to come back on the personal level as well as to the law firm at large.
Yeah, I totally agree. So do you feel like the law firms really should invest more in training up the solicitors, in training up the members of the team to be able to push that message out then? Is that basically the way you would think it should go?
Absolutely, and I would take it a step further actually, and say that legal secretaries or paralegals can be an extremely powerful engine, because if you look at obviously there is some restructuring going on in many firms, which we either are experiencing or not, but it's out there, and I think instead of letting go of very powerful resources, sometimes what law firms miss to see is that these paralegals or legal secretaries are extremely knowledgeable, highly empathetic people who know your firm inside out. They have been working with your firm, for X number of years and months. So they could actually be very easily upskilled or reskilled to support your marketing team or support your BD team in one way or another.
I agree, absolutely. Thank you very much. Charlotte Kay, same question to you really. Do you have anything extra to your thoughts on that marketing opportunities?
Yeah, so of course, like we've mentioned before, like most law firms, like digital marketing was absolutely the bottom of anyone's to-do list. And by digital marketing, I mean that people absolutely loved going out to an event, the networking opportunities, and of course, having a glass of champagne in hand. And now we're at the peak of a digital era with everybody on board, including my grandma, who I know FaceTimes me regularly. We had to grasp the digital audience and really what they wanted to hear. So we started off with pastel articles, and as Charlotte mentioned previously, we actually did one-to-one training with every single fee earner in our office on LinkedIn, and have also opened it up to their CSEs, their secretaries, to help them. We really started to see the rewards on this. So creating digital content and posting on various platforms saw target clients getting in touch with us. So this mixed with the speed of recording podcasts really allowed us to reach our audience immediately. And, I'm aware that the events world has been impacted. And I mean, we all are, including our clients, who started to change their car parks into drive-in cinemas. Farm shops were going online, and GDPR was crucial in a COVID tracking world. And, we saw this as an opportunity. So we pre-recorded a series of podcasts. They're on our website called Staging Outside Events. And these were all done in one afternoon, 3 episodes in 1 hour and a whole lot of editing. Thank you, Nicholas Sandy. That's my assistant who edited it all for us. So there was us connecting with our audience and understanding the changes that we needed to make to support them. And I guess we're always looking for new opportunities with people, whether that's internally with our stakeholders or externally with our clients. You've really got to capture the attention of both of them, internally and externally, to bring them on board.
Definitely. Thank you. Robert?
So there's again a couple of areas for us as a global law firm. The opportunities there, how it can help us get that global platform and profile for many of the areas and campaigns we're looking to push. You know, you think of the first campaign I did in the firm probably 4 or 5 years ago. You'd launch something and then you'd try and create events across New York, London, Paris, Munich, Dubai, Hong Kong, and the sheer amount of effort and coordination that requires. Whereas now you launch something, you put together a panel on a webinar, and save for a few time zone issues, you've got a global panel that you haven't had to pay for someone to come fly over from Hong Kong to London to be part of. It's an amazing profile tool for us. And I mentioned it previously about there's an opportunity to really target people with digital in a way you probably aren't, or we haven't done. I should say I'm a direct marketer by background, so even with direct mail, you've always been able to do that. But digital, because it's so measurable, probably gives you the platform you can do that. And as a law firm and professional services as a whole, being not necessarily at the front end of doing that previously, digital marketing does give us an opportunity to do that. I don't know if anyone's ever read it, but there was a book a while ago from a gentleman called Tim Hughes, and I'm not on commission from Tim Hughes, but he published a book called Social Selling, and it's not necessarily about digital, but it is about this idea of selling through your network, not necessarily to your network, and a lot of us have mentioned LinkedIn here, and that is a valuable tool. I would like to sit here and say all of our lawyers have got that down to a T. They haven't, and I think we'll be sitting here in 10 years' time still saying that same thing. But I think what they've appreciated, and not necessarily on social media platforms, but through others, is how they don't have to physically be present with someone to have a conversation about issues and solutions.
Yeah, I think massive opportunities there, and I think it's about building trust, isn't it? Social, some of the traditional forms of PR, the non-digital channels allow you to build trust, awareness, and start being in front of people. And then there's the sort of more, I guess, digital channels that drive traffic, which is the SEO, the pay-per-click, and those paid-for channels, which really do drive a lot of engagement as well. From our experience as an agency, you know, SEO and PPC can be really pivotal to driving the right sort of traffic.
So I'm probably a little bit more qualified than Luke to ask this question as part of the newer, younger generation. You know, most of our introduction into law is the American TV program Suits. God knows what that's done for the expectations within the industry. Steve, you've obviously seen one side of the show with a colleague writing 100 letters by hand. Have you seen the other side?
Yeah, very much so. About 6 years ago at the Bar Council and the bar generally, social media was an afterthought. But now, when we want to reach students or the junior end of the profession, Facebook, Instagram are our main channels. LinkedIn to some extent. LinkedIn's a bit strange for barristers because some of them are very reluctant to use it themselves. Their chambers might use it, but they don't because it questions their independence. They have to not be seen to be too close to a particular law firm or anything like that. But some of the junior barristers are quite heavily on there. So now all of our communications and marketing strategies, social media is a huge part of it, particularly Facebook and Instagram. Specifically because our audience on those channels tend to be what you call newer generations or younger people. So it's become a huge part of it. When I started at the Bar Council, the first thing I did was set up a Facebook page, and one of my opposite numbers at another legal organisation, I won't say the name of, just called me up and said, Facebook for the bar, really? But it's actually doing very well, and we do reach out to a lot of new audiences on it. We had a campaign that's won a lot of awards called I Am the Bar, which is about social mobility in the barristers profession, which is often seen as very elitist. But there are many barristers who've come from very, very tough backgrounds, and they told their stories through this campaign. And it was on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter to some extent, where we had a lot of a newer generation engaging with us and following us. So we've got both sides, I suppose. We're very heavy on that, but we rely almost entirely on social media, and like I said before, sometimes paid for, so we can reach those audiences. But I mean, going back slightly to what Charlotte T was saying about using individuals, it's actually the other way around at the bar. Barristers themselves they have to market themselves. You hire a barrister, you're not hiring their chambers. So they've always done it for years. I'd say about 90% of barristers, irrespective of age, are on Twitter, but they're on there not to market themselves necessarily. Most of them are on there to pick fights with people because that's what they're trained to do. So I think the newer generation are a bit more savvy actually in realizing that they can use social media themselves to build their practice.
Sorry, I realised I'm muted. I guess for picking fights, Twitter will probably be the platform of choice for those kinds of barristers.
Yeah.
Would you say LinkedIn's sort of the main social media platform where barristers are most likely to get the most engagement, or do you think it varies depending on the barrister?
Actually, if I'm honest, it's the chambers professionals, so the non-barristers who work with barristers, the marketing professionals, the chief execs in chambers, who they use it as a marketing tool to get the clients to the barristers. The barristers themselves are very quiet on LinkedIn. They don't do too much at all. It's almost like they're nervous about it, but they rely on, it's going back to what I said earlier, some chambers are very advanced in having marketing people in-house, or they hire people to do it for them, but they will be on LinkedIn doing the digital marketing. The barristers themselves hardly ever at all, actually.
Interesting. Charlotte, I guess two really difficult platforms to target the newer generation on are Facebook and Instagram. They're so saturated with heavily creative brands that are perhaps a little bit more trendy and current. Have you seen any really good examples of law firms with some really good creative posts on those platforms?
Which
Sorry,
Charlotte are you talking to?
Charlotte T, apologies.
Is it my go first, my Charlotte, or Charlotte I? One of the things to answer your question, obviously I don't work in a law firm, so have I changed my approach? No. But I am very excited to see, and you know what, I am honestly bracing myself to start seeing lawyers or legal professionals on I will again take it a step ahead on TikTok. You know, I absolutely think it's such a fascinating platform, and you know, if you look at TikTok going into the education market actually, and actually it's very impressive how many lawyers are on TikTok, and it's a very fun platform, extremely high engagement, and if your content is right, if you hit the right chords, you use the right hashtags, it goes viral. That's what the platform is designed to do. So if you are on a mission, and obviously this very much depends on what area of your law you're working in. You know, if it's it probably is something more for family law, injury lawyers, etc. But where you're trying to reach people on the individual level, I think absolutely these Instagram, Facebook, and even TikTok could be extremely powerful tools, but also for the fact that for example, family law or injury law, what people often miss or don't realize is that the individual might not realize that they have a case. So if you were to look for new business, should this be a platform to educate people about what is a legal case? And someone goes, oh my God, I didn't realize, but I should be getting a lawyer to deal with X, Y, and I could get my voice heard. So I feel like that's a very exciting opportunity, and I don't think it has been used to its fullest extent, and to sort of gamify it, because even when legal professionals do use this platform, what I find is they try to do something really similar to what they do on LinkedIn, just put it on a different platform, which is, if we look at Coca-Cola or the traditional B2C FMCG markets, they would laugh at you, because that's not obviously how you do different social channels.
Yeah, I guess a lot of legal professionals maybe don't know the opportunities on some of these platforms, and I guess if they see their children watching videos on TikTok, they might think it's saturated with organized dance routines. What's some of the really sort of engaging content you've seen on TikTok?
Well, see, I would contra you on that, because actually just about a week ago, I saw some statistics that over 50% of TikTok users are above the age of 34. So the whole idea of TikTok is for kids is a complete lie. I don't want to lie. I think the hashtag lawyers of TikTok has 73 million followers. So if you think lawyers are not on TikTok, that's absolutely not true. It's just fun content. And I actually have a couple of personal contacts as well who are lawyers, who go on there and will explain a legal case or educate people in 1 minute, which is plays to your attention span. It's engaging, it's fun, it's humanizing, and you can relate to it, because no one wants to talk to someone in a suit. I'm sorry, when we are in court maybe, but the reason why you take people out, as Charlotte was saying after a conference, the reason why you take them out for drinks is because people do business and work with people who they trust, and it's not the suit that's going to earn you that trust. So I think that's kind of exciting.
I think some really fascinating statistics there that be music to the ears of some of these legal professionals. Charlotte Kay, do you have anything to add to those points?
I might use that as buying power to do a TikTok video, so let's see. No, but of course, we've got to be changing our approach, not just for the new, but also for the older generations. I mean, I know personally, my father listens to podcasts all day, so he probably might be listening now, so hi, Dad. But the newer generations are ready to go with technology, as we've mentioned. They know their market, they understand the digital world. They, so it's important that they develop in the personal relationship skills, so really the soft side of things, just like the older generation. So it's a learning curve for really both the old and the new, but we're teaching the older generation about digital, so digital ways, and vice versa with the new generation for the soft side of relationship skills. So you're probably thinking, oh my gosh, how can we achieve this? And what we've done at CRS is we've created and we've jumped on the bandwagon of virtual events, so mixing the old and new, a virtual, a digital way of catching up with contacts, but a more sophisticated and traditional way of catching up over wine and cheese. So it allows the audience to catch up with colleagues in a safe home environment, learning about different wines, perfect, to take away any Zoom fatigue, and obviously the best part, you don't need to drive anywhere. So you can, drink as much as you like. Not that I'm encouraging that. But I was looking at some stats, and 15% of UK law firms claim that digital communications is the backbone within their organisation to improve talent retention, so keeping those next gen, and more than a third have increased their billable time, while 73% claim that improvements in people's efficiency. So it's led really to nearly half of firms experiencing a boost in their bottom line.
It's interesting. You said that your grandma uses FaceTime and your dad watches webinars. Do you think there's as much of a skill gap in technology between the newer generations and the older generations now than there used to be?
I think it's all about willing, isn't it? My grandma's willing to be in touch with her grandchildren. She wants to know what I'm doing. She wants to see me. I'm doing a house renovation. She wants to see the renovation, over the last 8 months. And my father, he's an incredibly educated man, and he wants to increase his knowledge. So gone on the days of getting a piece of newspaper through your door, which my grandfather doesn't get anymore. He's actually got an iPad and he reads it on there. I couldn't believe it. My grandma told me that. So they're willing to do this. They're willing to be in touch and have that. And if that generation isn't, then they're going to be getting left behind, because they're not willing to reach that network. They're not willing to go online and do these things and connect, because we've all got a phone in our hands now, haven't we? We're all going on there looking and wanting to catch keep in touch with our friends. And you look at those sad photos of families in nursing homes not being able to see their children. It's heartbreaking, and this is a way you can keep in touch. So that applies throughout, doesn't it? It's a way for us to keep in touch with, look at us now, with each other, with our audience. And I think you've got to really take that and emphasize it and be willing.
I completely agree. I think we've got to embrace it. I guess a lot of people fear that which they don't understand. Robert, what's your experience like with targeting the newer generations?
I think there's an inherent danger in targeting via age. I'm not one necessarily who subscribes to the view of millennials, purely because the timeframes you use to classify a millennial is so broad, and there are so I mean, technically I'm classed as a millennial, but I don't necessarily share many of the traits that you would class as a millennial. So I think it's all about behaviors. Some of our most prolific digital marketers within our lawyer group are actually what we're referring to here as the older generation. So I think we have to, you find your advocates within the group of lawyers in which you work with and work with them, and those, regardless of whether they are an associate, whether they're a partner, whether they're junior in-house counsel or general counsel, then you adapt your approach based on what you know and the profile of that individual, rather than when you made the assumption this person's newly qualified, therefore they're going to be proficient with the likes of TikTok, Instagram. Actually, that may not be the case, and you miss the point completely. But if I can make a sweeping generalization, yes, we tend to find conversations about digital marketing easier with our NQs and associate groups, but we are mindful of those at the more senior end do have those capabilities, and let's face it, because they have more mature networks, quite often can be more effective at it.
Yeah, I think it's probably a problem within the digital marketing industry that we really try and group audiences together and create these personas, and they don't actually always fit the target market for that particular business. So I think you're absolutely right. Sue, do you find that the majority of the new business that you're targeting is the sort of newer generation, or is the majority of the more valuable commercial business the older generation?
It's a real mix, and I'm a bit in Robert's camp, I'm afraid. Trying to sort of label an age group is really difficult. So what we've tried to do actually is show everybody in the firm how digital can help. And we helped a partner, not in the younger generation, last month actually serve a legal notice on a defendant through Instagram. He had no idea we could do that, no idea whatsoever. And we tried so many other ways of tracking down the defendant. And as somebody mentioned Instagram in the meeting, and that was it. It was like this great. But he is now an absolute fan of Instagram and wants to get involved. So we've had to set him up an account, and it's come on like that. And I think some of our mediators at work have really bought into doing mediation through digital platforms, and the clients love it. Clients love it. It's great. Everything goes 9 times out of 10 without a problem, and so they suddenly understand that digital isn't just gimmicky and something that you use to buy stuff off eBay. It can actually support them and their clients in what they need to do. And we were another firm that was heavily into events. We were event-tastic, and of course we've had to change those and run lots of forums online, and they've gone really well. But that has enabled me to then come up and say, okay, I want to put live chat on our new website, and I want to do this, and I want to do that. And instead of getting pushback or, oh, well, this is going to be a little bit further down our budget spend, now all of a sudden everybody's interested. So I thank God for Instagram every single day of the week.
Do you think there are more opportunities on these sorts of platforms now as they've evolved and developed, and perhaps their audiences have solidified and matured, than there were maybe when these technologies were a little bit younger?
Yeah, definitely. I think again, you know, there are so many platforms out there all vying for our attention that they have had to diversify, and that can only help us. You know, these sorts of things will continue, and as our world changes, whatever that looks like, we can be sure that these platforms are going to change and be hopefully ahead of the curve for us, so that we continue to try and innovate for clients and give them the service that they need.
Thank you.
Very good, thank you everybody. I'm conscious that we're 5 minutes to the hour. If everybody from a panelist point of view is okay to continue, we shall carry on. Obviously, if anybody in the guest list needs to drop out, we will be fully recording this. We want to make sure we get all the questions covered at the end as well. Some amazing responses already, and I think that just shows we've managed to kill this time in 3 questions. So pretty a lot to say and a lot to learn. So really good. So I'll try and speed up a little bit through this one. If you can support me with that, that'd be amazing. So do you see a real difference in buying behavior? And I think this is really relevant if we talk about this last year. Everything's been up in the air. I think we've sort of alluded or touched on this a few times, but you know, have we seen clients changing or adapting to digitization? Have we seen all of the engagement and buying behavior start to change? Charlotte T, I'll come to you first on this one.
Well, I will try and support you here with keeping things brief, purely because I think I'm not the best person on this panel to talk about this, because of not being working actively in a law firm as such. But to very briefly do say something, I feel like again, it's just that displaying knowledge. And now, because people are a bit more active online, I would claim that the expectation of having information and having information that's easily accessible, the expectation might be a bit higher, and that might, you know, essentially make you a more educated buyer, which makes you a little bit more picky, would be my probably add to this point.
Lovely, thank you. And Robert, from your side, you know, how much has it changed? Have you noticed any sort of obvious changes? I think you mentioned earlier about sort of people sticking with firms, but have you noticed any changes from new buyer behavior?
Yeah, and I'll do my best to keep this brief because I do have to jump off at 1 o'clock. So I started doing webinars within the practice about 2 years ago. And the idea that then you would have a conversation that led to an instruction through a webinar was ridiculous, although I did believe it was the case. Yes, we're having those conversations coming out of webinars because we are targeting, we are making sure, probably more so than even with physical events, we are mindful of the follow-up. And I think that's key. Regardless of whatever you do, if you don't follow up, then your chances of winning everything or carrying a conversation down the pipeline are seriously limited. And you know, it will. I'm sure we'll experience the same going forward, even when we move back into the case when we can all meet again. So yes, I think clients in particular are more at ease with having those conversations digitally. And like I've said before, you've also got to be mindful of the ability to increase your consideration by doing digital marketing. Without that consideration, there is no instruction, and it may it's not going to be a day one you build the consideration, day two you win the work. There's probably a period here where if we're not acting for someone within the current market, it's going to take longer to get through that pipeline. But buying behavior is definitely improving in the digital space.
Very good, thank you. And I think in the interest of time, would anybody else like to add anything else to this question?
Really briefly, I was going to bring up two things. I think digitalisation of services is very widely known. So, for example, there was stuff in the press recently about being able to sign wills, virtually, and a lot of lawyers are still nervous about that. But clients are now expecting that because they see that everything else can be done virtually. So why not that? And the only other very quick point I would like to make is that I think Amazon, in its speediness of dealing with customers, has kind of raised the expectation levels around how quickly everybody else gets back to people digitally. So, for example, if somebody makes a new inquiry through your website, they're expecting a response really, really quickly because that's what Amazon does.
I completely agree with that. We've seen that across a whole cross-section of different verticals as well. Okay, very good. We'll move on to the last question.
So I guess what future trends do you see in the sector? We could probably talk about moving from paper to digitalization, new softwares available to the industry. Steve, do you want to kick off this conversation?
Yeah, sure. I mean, COVID has changed everything for the bar. The bar was completely against doing anything virtually before. Court hearings, seminars, talking to clients, and echoing what many others have said. It's completely changed now because if they don't do it, they won't make any money. But I think one of the benefits, and I think we'll see more of it in the future, is that outside of London, barristers would market locally, whereas now using more digital marketing, they can actually reach the rest of the country, the rest of the world. They just didn't before. It was a nice, comfortable little legal community. So I think that's something that's definitely going to change in terms of how marketing is done. Certainly at the Bar Council, and I expect the same at the bar, is we're using influencers a lot more for digital marketing. Some people don't like us. Some people, believe it or not, don't like barristers. It's shocking, but they might like certain influencers who are supporting some of the things that we're saying, or who are even just marketing very subtly the role of barristers, certain chambers, or individuals who've done something particularly good. So I think that's another thing. The only other future trend I'll mention, because I know we're running out of time, is that content is becoming much shorter and more concise, because we're seeing with videos, webinars, or not webinars so much, but anything, even written website content, short attention spans. So everything, videos, we don't do videos for longer than 2 minutes unless we really have to, because a very senior barrister has told us to do it, because we see people just switch off after 30 seconds. So we're making everything much more concise, bite-sized consumption, given that we're dishing so much out through digital marketing.
You're right. I think there's definitely a trend to making content more skimmable and consumable a lot quicker. People people really want to try and get the information as quickly as they can and then move on and act on it, I think. Charlotte Kay, there's obviously a lot of trends that have come out of COVID. Which ones do you think have been innovated by COVID will stay on after COVID?
Yeah, as well, thank you, Callum. So yeah, absolute digital push. As I mentioned earlier, I think like live streaming will come into hand as you start to see people being able to attend events, hopefully, and wanting to live stream out to the other locations, because let's not forget, by doing podcasts, webinars, live streaming, articles, you're reaching a whole other audience that you couldn't do when you're at an event if you didn't live locally. And I guess looking at like the kind of more BD side, so digital pictures, so making these interactive, and as Steve just mentioned, like really short bite-sized information that can be included in these pictures and hyperlinked to other areas that people can click onto and, you know, interactively get engaged in those pictures. Obviously, now we know that everyone's viewing everything on their laptops. They can utilize the content they have and put it in various ways, so not just in one area. And we should be informing our clients and leading them on the market trends and using the digital activity to keep them updated. So people want to know something in a real brief nutshell, not a story, and a digital insight would provide this. And, you know, as we start to see people work from home more, we're unable to see our clients, you know, due to a lockdown world. I think, you know, looking at the other trends around virtual hearings, and no doubt they have their pros and cons of saving money by not waiting around, but also the cons of Wi-Fi and judge issues when trying to hear the judge, etc. And I know we mentioned about the first case in March 2020 via video conference in the UK Supreme Court, and both sides were represented, you know, via video links. And more generally, if we look wider than this, you know, look at the world of taxis. From when you used to put your left hand out and grab a taxi, now to ordering it via an app on Uber. Hotels, you know, walking into a high street branch, and now you're searching on Airbnb, and local homeowners are transforming their homes into holiday lets. So looking at our legal market, and now we're in the midst of, you know, of a legal digital transformation, which, you know, let's just see in the next couple of years where it goes.
Yeah, there's been a really heavy focus on content, I think, throughout this conversation, and there's probably always been a lot of questions around the legal sector. Do you think the legal sector maybe should have been pushing out more content sooner, or do you think it's more a reaction to COVID soon?
Definitely a reaction to COVID, I think. But I do wish, I do wish that we could have looked at it sooner. However, now there's a real support to do it, and I've mentioned, you know, new, old generations, whoever it might be, is supporting this. You know, you have your winners in your office, you know, the people who are going to push that digital concept, you know, and use those to your advantage. But it's definitely supported this digital focus. Being in the regions, looking at London, when I worked in London, you know, we would absolutely on digital, we were live streaming all around the world. It was, you know, incredible. And then a couple of years on, it's now hitting the region. So I think it's just supported and emphasised the message that we, as, you know, leading individuals in our areas, you know, supported beforehand.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So, do you think there's more demand for content now, or there's just more availability for it?
I think it's a bit of both. We find that we're being approached more and more often by the media, and they're looking at trends and they want content. People are interested in reading an awful lot more now, researching an awful lot more now, both from a national and a regional point, because I think what we try and do is take what's happening nationally and write for our region how that affects us, and that's gone down really well with our audiences. But yeah, I think this is a definite split there.
Charlotte T, do you have anything else to add?
All I wanted to add, and this is a slight sidetrack from digital marketing, if you like, but if we think about marketing as the product itself as well, then obviously it's a bit more exciting. And I saw the point on your slide that technology and bringing in technology to improve the quality of legal work, of how you engage with your clients, of, you know, how you provide that, and that's something that, you know, you can communicate, because again, I believe that a lot of the decisions are, especially when you as a new client, are made based on not product focused or service focused metrics, but rather sort of the clues around it, because, you know, like, we are only human. It's no different to buying clothes. It's the exact same. It's all the fluff, it's all the pink cloud around that you base your decision on, and if you're able to improve the quality of your services and how you deliver that to your clients, and then you communicate that through the digital channels, that could be a very exciting opportunity. So I think small things such as document automation, having top-notch templates, so every single document is looking the exact same. Those are subliminal indications of quality and trust based on which you can drive new clients.
It's definitely something that's often overlooked, actually optimizing the business offering and the processes before pushing out additional marketing. It's harder to market a product that perhaps isn't ready for the market, for sure. Nick, over to you.
Thank you everybody. So we've got our Q&A section here. I think let's have a quick look at what's popped up. There's been a couple throughout. What we're going to do after anyway is follow up with a sort of a transcript of Q&As. There's one here from Martin. Let's have a look. I'm fascinated that Instagram has come up quite a few times. We've not got an account set up ourselves, but was wondering how people navigate a content strategy on there from a legal service perspective, obviously as it's less obviously visual than other sectors. I have some ideas, but does seem a bit more difficult than other areas. How would some of the panelists go about creating content that's interesting? Who would like to answer that one?
I can start if you like. I think Instagram for us, we started using it a lot around our CSR policies. So we were very much able to share with the community what we were doing with the charities that we support and what our staff were doing in their volunteering roles. So it sort of adds and supports everything else you're doing. It's difficult to use it as a standalone, but it still gets the message over who you are and what you stand for. And it was only much later that we utilised it, if you like, to actually serve a notice on a defendant, because that wasn't the plan at all. But more and more firms are doing that. But I would try and keep it to supporting the message that you want to get out there for your firm.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. It's about social, certainly from a legal service perspective, can be used as a trust signal. We see in the agency that a typical journey, even on a professional service type of business, that a typical sort of customer journey is about 20 different touch points. So that will be reading some content maybe initially that drove them into the website. They then look at different pages on the website. They might then disappear. Later you might retarget them and then they come back to the website. They're then going to look at your different social channels to see that you're active, make sure that there's trust, and they get a flavour for who you are. The other thing that does work really well is putting out some of the personality of the firm and the business. So, the staff, the hires, what's going on, what's the culture like, what, do those values, does that why sit with the why of the customer? I think that's a really important piece. So actually that sort of content can be really engaging because it's real, and that will make a big impact.
Yeah, I think a lot of these platforms, or a lot of businesses and people on these platforms, focus on making their business look how it should and not necessarily how it is. People want to be real, for sure. This question might be quite a good one for you, Charlotte Kay. What does digital marketing success look like for a law firm?
How would you measure that? Yes, it's a question we all want to know the answer to, isn't it, really? I think if you're getting topical information out to an audience and you're getting some listeners, get your stats through, as Steve mentioned earlier, don't focus too much on the stats sometimes, but it's not always about how many people are reading or listening to your content. It's about those who are. Are they influential people? Are those your target clients? Are those people who you want to hear from? Do they, who is it? So you could have one person connecting with you on LinkedIn, but that person could be, somebody who you really want to build a relationship with. Well, that's a win, isn't it? If it's one person, it doesn't have to be 100, 200. It's just, making sure that you can measure that yourself and understand what you're trying to achieve. Are you trying to share knowledge, as most lawyers are, to make people understand what it means for them and help them ultimately? We're providing a support here. So if that's the case, and sharing that information is an instant win when you're posting it.
Yeah. And how would you go about tracking and measuring that success?
We've got a variety of different tracking tools that will tell us, give us some stats or downloads, etc. And of course that's great because, you know, people's ears prick up when you say it's had 300 downloads or something like that. But also I think for us, we've had there's been times when we've posted something on LinkedIn or requested or supported one of the lawyers to post something on LinkedIn, and from that we've had introductions to some, you know, target clients, and that's just one or two, and that's fantastic. That's what it's all about, and it's about those relationship buildings. You know, last night we did a wine and cheese event with another you know, intermediary, and you're building a rapport with them in a, you know, that traditional way, but with a, you know, a digital era in these hard times.
I guess you're talking about providing that personability that was always a real trademark of the law industry years ago.
Yeah.
And it's really like coming into fruition now, for sure.
Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. There are a few other questions that we've had sent in that we will transcribe and send afterwards with the video. I think it's probably best to just sort of wrap things up now. We've got some resources that we mentioned, some blogs that we will send through to you that we've written recently in the build up to this webinar, very relevant, and again touching on some of the same topics that we've covered today. So what next? We as an agency will follow up with the recording. If any of you out there are struggling with your own digital marketing, please do reach out. We'll be happy to give a bit of free advice, some sort of support, maybe a marketing audit, etc. And we'll be there. Thank you very much to our guests and to the panelists today. I hope everyone's enjoyed it as much as I have. Really insightful. Learned a lot, and looking forward to keeping in contact and speaking to you all again soon. Thanks. Bye for now.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you.